Just before we finish this basic intro to Flexbox part, I want to quickly show you what happens when we have a whole lot of flex items in a flex container. So right now we have these 5 elements, but what happens if we just add another 5 of these? Okay, so let's get rid of these class names here, of course. And then 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so you see that all of these flex items, they are now getting crammed here into this line. And if we decrease this even more, then there's even less and less space available. And at some point they even start overflowing the flex container like this, like we saw before actually. But as you know, there's another property that we can use on the flex container, right? And that is called flex wrap. So flex wrap, and its initial value is no wrap. And that's because it's not wrapping into a new line. But if we say wrap like this, then it will create a new line for these flex items that no longer fit the container. And so that's actually happening already. So you see that this item here with the 3, so this I3 here, which has this flex set to 1, has now an entire new row for itself. And if we actually decrease this even more, then you see that more and more elements come down here to the second row, so basically the second line that is created here as the flex items start to wrap. Okay? And once more, this can be pretty useful for responsive design when we get less and less space to work with in our layouts, right? Now let's again get rid of these huge margins that we have here. So I'm going to put 5 pixels here just so that we have a little bit of margin. And so that's what it looks like. Now let me actually increase the container here, okay? So you see that right now the container ends here, of course, and that makes sense. But for what I want to show you next, we need a higher container. So let's increase it. Well, not that much, probably. So let's actually, like, I don't know, maybe 1000 pixels. And so let's see what it looks like this. So with all this space, this creates a bunch of different lines here. And actually, I'm not sure about this one here. Let's reload it. Or first save this actually, and then reload it. And it still does that. Okay, that looks a bit weird here. It looks like it should be in here. Let's check that one out. And yeah, of course, it is just because it's set here to flex end here, okay? So that's the only reason why it's down here. It's actually on the same row as this one. So let's just change this one here, or simply get rid of it. So that's the same effect. So what happens here is that we have 2 rows, basically. So first this one, and then this one. Now, why is all of this space here between these rows? So this one and this one. Well, that's because of the align content property that I didn't show you yet. And so I'm going to show it to you right now. And that's one of these that's once again set here on the flex container. So align content, and let's set it to flex start. Okay, and so now all of these rows move up. Okay, and that is because what the align content property does is that it aligns the rows along the cross axis. So it's pretty similar to align items, with the difference that align items aligns the flex items, as the name actually says, and align content aligns entire, let's say, rows along the cross axis, right? And so now, as we set flex start here, both these rows are now here at the beginning, and then all of the space down here is empty, right? Now we can also set it to flex end, just to demonstrate you that. And so both rows basically move down here, okay? Let me decrease this a bit here so that the last row doesn't have only this one element, okay? And so let's actually try another one here. So center, which is also pretty useful. And so now, as you can guess, the space here, up here, is the same as the one down here, because these 2 rows are now centered inside the flex container along the cross axis. So basically vertically, right? Now this is a bit difficult to visualize here because we don't have a lot of space here, okay? We just increase this a little bit more, okay? Now there's also space around, just as we have in justify content. So it's the same logic. And this is what it looks like. So basically it distributes the space between the rows so that the space on the bottom and on top of each of the rows is the same. Okay, so just like with justify content. Then we also have space between, which will push one of the lines to the top of the element and the other one to the bottom. Okay, and then finally stretch, which is actually the default, so the initial value. Now the stretch here doesn't really stretch all of these elements like it does in align items, okay? It just stretches the rows, which is not really visible. So this is pretty similar to like space between, okay? So align content is the last property that I wanted to show you. And again, it controls how the rows are aligned along the cross axis, similar to align items. And that is actually it. So that's all I had to show you here in this very basic introduction about Flexbox. So now you know the very fundamentals of Flexbox so that you are ready to move on to the project that we're about to start in the next lecture. So, are you excited about that? Then don't wait and join me right in the next lecture. See you there.